What if the most unexpected encounter of your life turned out to be the key to uncovering a past you never knew existed? What if the one thing you thought was ordinary was in fact the thread that ties you to something much bigger? Where are you watching from? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories that remind us how small moments can change everything. Cara Delaney wiped her hands on her apron, the scent of fried onions and stale coffee lingering in the air. At 28, she was a fixture at Rosie's Diner, a small-town sanctuary where time seemed to slow down. The diner had been her world since she was 16, when she dropped out of school to help care for her sick mother. Now, 12 years later, her hazel eyes still sparkled with warmth, and her smile was always ready for the regulars who filled the booths. But behind that smile was a woman who had long abandoned her own dreams to carry the weight of others. Every dollar she earned went to her younger brother, Ethan, who struggled with a rare autoimmune condition. His treatments drained their savings, and Cara had let go of her dreams of fashion school in New York long ago. Instead, her sketchbook, filled with bold designs of dresses and jackets, gathered dust in the corner of her tiny apartment. But she never complained. She was a fighter. She had to be. It was a slow afternoon at Rosie's, quieter than usual. Old man Jenkins nursed his coffee, mumbling about the weather, and Sally the cook sang off-key as she flipped pancakes. Cara was refilling the ketchup bottles when the bell above the door jingled, and a gust of damp air swept inside. She glanced up, expecting another regular, but froze when she saw the stranger standing in the doorway. Alex Carter was not the type of man to step foot in a diner like Rosie's. At 34, he was sharply dressed, his black suit drenched from the rain, and his expensive Rolex gleamed under the dim lights. He had the look of a man who belonged in boardrooms, not greasy spoons. As he paced the floor, talking loudly into his phone, Cara raised her eyebrow. She'd seen her share of city types passing through, always in a hurry, always looking down on Willow Creek. But this guy? There was something about him that made her pause. He hung up with an exasperated sigh, slumping into one of the booths. Cara approached him with her notepad ready. "Coffee?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "Black. And make it quick," he replied, his voice cutting through the calm of the diner. Cara nodded, unfazed by his abrupt tone. She didn't need to engage with him. She had enough to worry about. She set a steaming cup in front of him a few minutes later. "Rough day?" she asked, leaning against the counter. "You could say that," he muttered, rubbing his temples. "Car broke down. Roadside assistance is 4 hours out. 4 hours in this godforsaken town." His voice dripped with disdain as he glanced around the diner like he didn't belong here. Cara smirked, her lips barely twitching. "Willow Creek's not so bad. Got a name, stranger?" "Alex," he said curtly. "And you?" "Cara," she replied, tilting her head as she studied him. "You don't strike me as the type to get stranded. What's a guy like you doing out here?" "Business," he said vaguely, waving off her question. "Not that it matters now. I'm stuck." Cara eyed him for a moment before looking out the window at his Porsche, the rain pouring over its sleek curves. She didn't know much about cars, but she knew enough. She'd spent years tinkering with Ethan's old bike and their father's truck before he passed away. The thought of letting someone like Alex sit in a diner for hours, just waiting, didn't sit well with her. "Mind if I take a look?" she asked, already grabbing a toolbox from the storage closet. "I'm no mechanic, but I've got a knack for fixing things." Alex blinked, clearly caught off guard. "You fix my car?" "Don't sound so shocked," Cara said with a smirk, already heading out the door before he could protest. She wasn't going to sit around waiting for someone else to fix his mess. Outside, the rain drenched her uniform as she popped open the hood of his car. Within minutes, she spotted the problem: a loose alternator belt. It was simple enough to fix. She tightened it, checked the connections, and slammed the hood shut. The whole thing took less than 10 minutes. Back inside, she tossed a rag over her shoulder. "Try it now," she said. Still skeptical, Alex stepped outside, turned the key, and the engine roared to life, smooth as silk. He stood there for a moment, blinking, rain dripping off his face.
How the hell did you do that? Kara shrugged, wringing out her ponytail. Told you, I'm handy. Alex stared at her for a moment, processing what had just happened. He reached for his wallet. Let me pay you. Name your price. Kara waved him off, tucking a strand of wet hair behind her ear. Keep your money. Just doing a good deed.
Alex hesitated before pulling out a sleek business card and sliding it across the table. I run a tech company in San Francisco. We could use someone like you. Problem solver, quick on their feet. Ever think about leaving this place? Kara laughed softly, tucking the card into her apron without looking at it. Nice try, but I've got roots here. Safe travels, Alex. As he walked out, the diner buzzed with quiet whispers. Kara returned to work, her fingers absently brushing the small silver pendant around her neck. It was a simple thing, an oval shape with a delicate vine pattern etched into it, but it had been her mother's. She didn't know why it meant so much to her, only that it felt like a piece of her past, always close, always with her. Alex couldn't shake her. Back in his office in San Francisco, surrounded by his pristine desk and cold technology, Kara's face kept surfacing in his mind. Her warmth, her genuine smile, her ability to fix his car in 10 minutes while the rest of his world crumbled around him. She wasn't like the polished women he usually surrounded himself with, those who fed off his wealth and status. No, Kara was real, and that unsettled him. A week later, he found himself driving back to Willow Creek. No meetings, no business, just a need to see her again. He'd been telling himself it was to thank her properly, but deep down he knew it was more. He wanted to understand why she stuck in his mind like an earworm, a song he couldn't forget. When he walked into the diner this time, it was busier, the lunchtime rush in full swing. He saw her immediately. Kara in her usual faded uniform, her hair in that messy bun, moving between tables with practiced grace. The pendant caught his eye, gleaming in the light as she leaned over a table. His breath caught. There it was, the vine pattern. He was 12 when his mother died, and the pendant had been hers. She had given it to him the night she passed, pressing it into his hand with a whisper of, "Keep it safe." He'd locked it away, too raw to look at it. But it had vanished during a move years ago. Now it was hanging around the neck of a waitress in a diner in Willow Creek. He froze in the doorway. "Alex!" Kara's voice broke through his thoughts. "What are you doing back here?" He forced a smile, his mind racing. "Came to say thanks. You saved me last week." "Not a big deal," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "Coffee?" He nodded, sliding into a booth. But as she poured, he couldn't take his eyes off the pendant. Finally, he blurted out, "That necklace, where'd you get it?" Kara touched it instinctively, furrowing her brow. "A pawn shop years ago. Why?" Alex's voice was quiet now, careful. "It's familiar. Mind if I take a closer look?" She hesitated, then unclasped it and handed it over. His hands trembled as he turned it over, his heart pounding. There, etched into the back, was an engraving. "To my heart, always." Her mother's words, his eyes blurred with emotion. "Kara," he whispered, "this belonged to my mother." She faced pale. "That's impossible. I bought it fair and square." "I'm not accusing you," Alex said quickly, "but I need to know how it ended up in that pawn shop." Kara's defenses softened. "I don't know much. I was 19, scraping by from my brother's school supplies. The shop owner said it had been there for years. I paid $20 for it. It just felt right." Alex leaned back, processing everything. "Can we figure this out together?" Kara nodded slowly, curiosity creeping in despite herself. "Okay, but I'm not giving it up." Over the next few days, they pieced together the pendant's story. Kara's mother, Leah, had passed away when Kara was a child, leaving her and Ethan to fend for themselves. Alex's mother, Margaret, had been a librarian in San Francisco. Through their digging, they discovered that Leah and Margaret had been childhood friends in Willow Creek, inseparable until a tragic car accident when they were teens. The pendant had been a gift from Margaret to Leah, a symbol of their bond. When Leah fell on hard times, she pawned it to pay for Ethan's early treatments.
One night, as they sat together, the pendant between them, Alex spoke first. "It's yours, Kara. It always was." She shook her head. "It's yours, too. It's both our mothers. Both our stories." As Alex looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time, he felt something shift. "You're incredible, you know that?" Kara laughed, blushing. "I'm just me." "That's enough," he said softly. Months later, Kara's life had changed. Alex had convinced her to work part-time at his company, using her problem-solving skills remotely. She still worked at Rosie's, but her sketchbook was open again, filled with new designs. Ethan's treatments were covered thanks to a grant Alex's company quietly funded. The pendant stayed with Kara, a reminder of her past and a bridge to her future. Together, Alex and Kara built something real, something better than any fairy tale. One evening, as they walked into the night together, the pendant gleamed under the stars. And in that moment, Kara knew, no matter how far they'd wandered, they had found their way home.